Welcome to Every Night is Game Night, because we all love game nights with our family and friends. But when you play solo games, then every night can be a game night. Check us out along with other great podcasts at dicetowernetwork.com.
Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome back to Every Night is Game Night, the podcast that helps you get your head in the game. I'm your host, Jason. Thank you so much for joining us. And in the co-host chair, once again, I'm glad to have him back. It is Anthony.
This guy, because I got nowhere to go, nowhere to be, nothing to do, lots to do, nowhere else to do it.
Kids are asleep, and thank goodness. And I don't feel like collapsing on the couch anymore.
I think one of them actually just shuffled out, but I don't know.
Oh, really?
We're
on a video call right now. I didn't see one like crawling around behind me. So
yeah.
Thank goodness for that.
Door's closed.
And joining us once again, also from Pittsburgh, PA, just like Anthony, is Jordan Shoenberger of the Dice Tower Second Chance Self segment on the Board Game Breakfast program. Welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
We had many game recommendations last time. I hope you enjoyed our little top 10 list over there. But it occurred to me that all three of us are dads, and all three of us are home, and all three of us are working. So that presents some interesting challenges, and I figured that we would get into talking about that a little bit as a way of like, we're going through some stuff. Maybe get some tips, get some strategies, and at the very least kind of resonate with maybe some people that are out there going through quarantine and going through having kids home a lot and all that kind of thing. So, are we ready to talk about some dad stuff? We ready to be share some wisdom over here?
Much as it can, yeah.
Wisdom is generous, but yeah, we'll talk.
Yeah. I second that. Yeah.
Being a dad, just going through this time, right? So I haven't. Obviously not a lot of people want to hear about the quarantine anymore. Like they tune into gaming content and they want to hear about games. I definitely want to give you that last time. Didn't really mention except for what we're playing during the quarantine, which is, I think is perfectly fine. This time though, I really wanted to get into just like the gamer side of it. Like we are gamers, we are dads. And I think being a dad presents a particular challenge that maybe the childless people out there don't quite realize. How overwhelming it's been, and we're dads. I mean, I don't want to exclude the moms that just happen to be three males that have children. So I definitely wanted to kind of put it out to parents as well. But I guess we'll start for the conversation here. Like, do you guys feel that your either gamer friends or other people out there don't quite get how much having your kids at home all the time, what that does to us in terms of our energy? What about you, Joe?
I think so. I think the people that I primarily play games with don't have kids. And so we've been trying to do some gaming over Zoom or Skype here and there. But I think it is, I don't know, like we are just so much more tired at the end of the day than we typically are. And so like, I know there's a couple times hey, you want to do something tonight? And we're like, I know games are supposed to be fun, but it just feels like extra work to set up the computers, to pull out something, to print off something, and it just, gaming is harder now in general, and you just have less energy to do it also. So I don't know, it's a hard, even just like playing games with my wife and I, we just haven't been doing it as frequently. I have this giant review pile of games I need to get to, and companies keep sending them, and I just can't get them played because we're just so exhausted.
What about you, Anthony? Do you feel like, just to be clear, like what I'm talking about is like our kids are home all of the time. There is like, you don't even realize that like that the time where they're in school or they're in daycare or they can visit Aunt Sally or like that's all gone. And these kids are home. And we'll get to the work part in a second, but I just wanted to ask about like, do you feel like that you have a hard time explaining how like kind of energy draining it's been to your folks that maybe don't have kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's a language they don't speak, and I don't even know that I have the right words for at this point, because it's just not a thing. Not since they were infants, like having been like this level of engaged and on all the time.
I almost wish there was a certain word that described the tiredness of a parent.
Yeah, but there's a German word for it. Yeah, look it up.
Yeah, I mean, like I think of it. So I'm dealing with it. I mean, I talk to people all the time about like how they're experiencing it, and I think of it. There's different people who have different buckets of reaction to this whole like COVID thing. So like some people are worried about the disease itself, and that's legitimate, and they're either with them or they're taking care of elder people, and they're worried about that. So that's a whole different set of worries. And then there's a worry that's in the bucket of like financial insecurity, like either they lost their job or they have to go to their job because they can't not go to their job because they have to pay bills. So that's a whole thing there. And then there's like the isolation piece, which I think that, like I think that's where a lot of the board gaming conversation about being quarantined, this being tough, kind of goes, because like, oh, I'm isolated. It sucks. I can't go to my gaming group, and I can't go to, I can't connect with these people, and I really want to just be around people. And when is this going to be over? And all this other stuff. And that's believe me, that is very legitimate and very like, I coming up with strategies to kind of deal with that has been a big part of my therapy as well. It's just like that whole the kid bucket. Like, I am home and we're all working, right? I'm working. I'm seeing 40 clients a week on Zoom. John, what you work for you work for like a crisis center, right? And what do you do with for the crisis center?
I am working from home. I'm one of the assistant director, so I am more administrative, making sure things like grant writing, a lot of emails, making sure things are up and running. So I'm fortunate to be able to do all that from home, where I have other staff people still at the center, making sure things are happening. But working from home when you have kids is near impossible, it feels like. My wife also works from home, but she always works from home. She doesn't have an office. And so we are now all encroaching on her space and her territory and her time. And because we're also not even just doing work, because we're also supposed to take care of our kids, but then also sort of teach our kids at the same time. That's become an expectation of us, and work and do all of these things. And fortunately, since I'm in charge of things and have a really understanding director above me, that we're kind of in similar situations, that her kids are at home also, that we give each other a lot of grace that, okay, this thing didn't get done right now. That's fine. We'll try again tomorrow, kind of thing. I know some people that aren't that fortunate. So it's I don't know. It feels like we've all been thrown into an impossible situation.
They talked about mom, super mom, you have the full-time job and you have to take care of your kids and all that kind of stuff. I think that's exploding, and I think it's exploding across multiple, spheres, where it's now so many of us are responsible for full-time dad, full-time teacher, okay. And there's that, okay. I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I get guilty. When I just okay, this has to get done. Go ahead, watch 7 hours of YouTube.
Yep. I feel like literally for science class the other day, we put on an episode of the Magic School Bus. Because I was like,
all right,
I don't know. It's going to keep you busy, and hopefully you learn something. Right. But I got to do some work. So
yeah, what else can you do? Yeah,
learn some science.
Before I get to the TV thing, Anthony, you are a marketer.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I'm self-employed, so I have several different clients that I do digital marketing for, and so this has been a very interesting time in that every single one of them has changed every single thing about their marketing plan because their business models have been thrown in a blender, and I've lost a few clients who just can't afford to pay me anymore. I do tend to work at home anyway, so I already have a routine. I have space. Thank goodness I have a space. I have an office with a door, so I can get away from things a little bit when my wife is home. But she's a nurse, so she's not always home. And so, it just becomes this when she is home, I will work all the hours that she's not doing something else. And then when she's not home, I'm with the kids the whole time. It's like a 90-hour job now, you know. It's rough. And then, yeah, because it's client work, they're not as understanding. And not necessarily that a boss or a workplace wouldn't be any more or less understanding, but I have like 5 of them pestering me all the time. So it's trying to balance that and to set new boundaries that weren't there before with clients that maybe I was a lot more flexible with in the past. And now I have to be like, no, I can't do extra work this week. I cannot do it at night. I cannot do it that day. I'm with my kids. Like, it does make it tougher because they're not used to hearing no.
I do want to get to the balance thing, but we did bring up screens. What have you guys been like in terms of your experiences and your approaches to like relying on what I like to call the third parent? You know, the thing that occupies them. Like so many people are kind of having conversations about like, okay, your kids are at home. What do you do with them? They have to be engaged all the time. Like my kids are 4 and 1. How old are your kids, Jordan?
7, 5, and 3.
And yours are
8 and 5.
8, 5, and 3.
8.
I don't know. She had a birthday. Who knows how old they are?
When you have more than 2, it's like,
my
oh my
gosh.
God, I'm losing track.
What age are they now? I don't know.
So like, everything 8 and younger. So like, how have you guys approached that question? I kind of leave it a little bit open-ended in terms of like how you rely on the quote unquote third parent of technology and screens.
It's definitely a lot more open. Like there was a pretty strict timeline, the amount of time we would let them have, during normal times. And that certainly went out the window on day one. And there's a lot of situations like similar to what, you guys mentioned of like, hey, this has to get done right now. Just go watch TV. Just go find something to do. But I've also found, especially for my son, the older one, who gets just a little too wired by it, we still have to we can't let him have too much because it just makes everything else harder. So it is challenging because we do have to pull it back. We do have to still set limits. We do have to occasionally be like, all right, you're done because you're clearly, it's getting to you. So my daughter's not so much, but obviously if one of them can't have it constantly, the other one can't either. But it's certainly 2 to 3 times more than what they would have normally have on like a normal school day.
Mm-hmm. What about you, Jordan?
Yeah. We right now we limit mostly like the iPad time because we only have one iPad, so they argue over it. So we limit that. TV is a bit more loose right now because sometimes.
Do you guys find that the personal device, like the iPads, are like way more addicting than just regular television?
It's harder to pull them away from, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like I don't know what it is. Like the same thing. Like I'll show my youngest, or my 4-year-old. I'll show my 4-year-old whatever. I put it on the iPad, and she has her face right in it, and she's because of whatever. It's amazing for her. And then I'll put the same exact program, like a Mother Goose Club or Peppa Pig or whatever, on the TV, and then they're like starting to run around and stuff. It's like, what is? I don't understand. So I don't know.
Yeah, my son will walk up and he'll be like, "Can I watch Cars on your phone?" And I was like, "I'll put it on the TV." And he's like, "No, I want to watch it on your phone."
What is with the phone thing? Yeah, my kids do the same thing. Like, I want your phone. I'm like, no, you're not careful with my phone. You get food on my phone. You drool on my phone. You can't have my phone.
No, it is my phone for a reason.
The operative word is my, not phone.
Yes.
I'm drawing a line. You have everything else. Let me keep this.
We have tried to put some sort of schedule so that, because Anthony, I don't know. Do you live in the city?
Yeah.
So they haven't. Where we live in Pittsburgh, they haven't instituted online school yet.
No.
Wow. Okay.
So there's literally nothing right now.
It's been a month of nothing. Yeah.
Wow.
It's been awful.
Yeah. So they, my wife has been trying to do some more structured things with the kids, even if it's just like, we're going to have Play-Doh time right now, or we're going to go in the backyard right now, like structured time. And so my kids are like, is it lunchtime? Then we can watch, like, they know that they can watch TV at lunchtime. They know they can watch TV while we're making dinner. Like, there's times where they know they can watch TV. And we, at times, will be like, no, you can watch some more now, or you can watch it longer here and there. but that we found like they stop asking at certain times, like, oh, okay, I know this morning I can't watch TV because we're supposed to be doing other things. Mm-hmm. So that's helped a little bit. I would say maybe for 2 out of 3 of the kids it helps.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For our oldest, it's been... My youngest, she's really good at just kind of finding stuff to do. And sometimes she'll get bored and climb on you and roll around, but she likes to make things. She's creative, you know, a lot of the time. For a 5-year-old, she's pretty engaged. My oldest, though, he needs the structure. So other people are like, yeah, just let it go, be looser, you know, you're home, whatever. And I'm like, I can't. He needs the same structure. Right. The day needs to start for him at 8 o'clock like it normally did with school. And we're not, obviously, as you said, Jordan, there's nothing happening with the school district here yet. I think next week maybe they're kicking something into gear. Mm-hmm. But he has reading time in the morning. He has time where he looks at his math workbooks. He has free science and social studies time where we just like sit down and find something he wants to learn about and either draw something or put together a project or build something, get the Legos out, whatever it is, just some kind of structured time to in the morning. And then in the afternoon, we've kind of just given him some new chores to do just to help her out around the house. You know, like, listen, we're all doing a lot more work. You're going to help. Like, kind of thing. Which has been good. He's kind of, you know, he fought a little at first, but he's gotten used to it. And so the result is very similar to what you said, Jordan, is he doesn't ask for the videos at those times when he knows he should be doing something else. You know, like this is chore time, this is go outside time, this is school time. And we're not super rigid on any of those things, but just having that framework has been helpful. That's
so funny hearing you guys talk about Pittsburgh not really kind of kicking it into gear. Like so I'm in Connecticut. Connecticut is famous for kind of having some of the best public schools in the country. That's why we moved here. And some of the kids, not my kids, because my kid's 4, she's not at school, but like the kids of the parents that are my clients, they're getting like packets of stuff. And it's like here, and it's like, you know, 45 minutes per subject per day. And we're talking about 3rd grade here. And it's like, the parents are working. What do you guys think is going to actually happen? You know, I don't like, I just feel like this whole situation, I guess I don't blame the schools because they don't know, you know, but and like, you know, just like all of a sudden it's like, you know, you're trying to kind of fix a plane while it's flying, which is a thing that school thinks in school you hear that all the time. It's like, okay, fix the plane while it's flying. It's like, oh, this plane's gonna crash. Sorry, I don't know about this. But yeah, it's I guess that just adds more stress on us as parents. It's like, you know, we're not a lot like schools would be a partner. I mean, it's not like you've lost that partner. And it's such a underrated like aspect of raising kids is having community partners, like the school being one of them, and just to not have that anymore, or to have them put them in a position where they don't really know what they're doing is just like, it's draining. It's so draining. And I guess
I was talking to Brant Sanderson a week or so ago, and he was he made a joke because he's a teacher. He's like, I've been joking with all my friends. They're like, oh, now you got to stay home and teach one kid. I go to work and teach 30 kids all day. And I was like, but you signed up to do that?
Yeah.
You were trained.
I signed up to do something else, and now I also have to do your job. So I got to do both now.
You were trained, Brant. Leave us alone. So have you guys found ways to manage the stress and manage the energy levels? Are there things that work for you? Is there, you know, I obviously it's fun to like kind of like play and do whatever, but is there something that like, you know, kind of getting to brass tacks, because we're going to be here a while, you know, this isn't going to end. Like, I don't think they're going back to school this year. You know, we're taping this in April, early April. This will kind of post in late April. And I don't know that we're going to get clarity that like, you know, that they're, you know, we're out of the woods and okay, everybody back to school. Man, I don't think that's going to happen. So like, is there anything that you guys have kind of settled on that like, okay, this is something I need to kind of use to maintain energy and keep that stress out? Anything you guys have come up with? Jordan is staring at the ceiling. He has no...
That's a good question. That's a good question.
What a terrible question.
I think right now we try to preserve bedtime as best we can to make sure that we have... I also think I find my wife and I have been staying up later, and I think it's because we've been trying to get as much of that kind of energy time as we can. It does make us probably more tired, but also we can sleep in a little bit longer because we don't have to, like, I don't have to drive into work now. So I feel like that's something we've been doing, is just kind of staying up a little later and not but still making sure the kids are going to bed strictly on time, because it just gives us some more of that alone time without them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've stuck to bedtime pretty strictly. I know we have a couple friends in the area who've like posted pictures of their kids running around like 10:30 at night. You're like, it's just we gave up. And I'm like, nope. That is not one thing I will give up on. Bedtime is still happening. And I don't know, like just getting outside. I know, obviously in the age of social distancing, it's hard to just go out.
Yeah, they've padlocked all the playgrounds and, like the fun things to do. Like, you could take them to the park and you could take them, like, as long as you're safe and distant from everybody and whatever. It's like, that's actually been a blessing to kind of find different parks and trails and stuff. So that's kind of like one thing that I've done is try to intentionally get out more. And, with the kids. And I found like, I don't know, just like driving around with them is pretty peaceful, because I drive anyway. And, they're usually like, I'll play us, Moana soundtrack or whatever, and they'll sing it along. It's like, this is better than them crawling all over my face on the couch, so I'll take it. So, that kind of thing. So it's like driving around, finding different outdoor places I've done. But the fun stuff is all locked. Like, you can't go on the playgrounds. You can't go on the swings or, public fun things that to them, they're all locked down. And it's just kind of frustrating.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. And this is probably specific to where I live. Like, I live right across the street from one of the parks here in the city, Frick Park, and I can take the kids in, like, on the back paths through the woods. I guess I say through the woods. It's the park. But, there's fun stuff in there. You see the animals. There's almost no people if you go at the right time of day, and you can see the waterfalls, and they climb on the trees and whatever. And it's not a thing I ever would have thought to do like on a normal day, to drag them back there. But now I'm like, well, at least there's interesting things to see. It's different. It's not a jungle gym per se, but they can climb some of these trees or pick up some sticks and throw rocks into the water, whatever it is that they get out of doing that.
Some developmental thing is happening in the background.
Hopefully they keep the parks open so I can continue to do that, because if they close the park, I don't know what to do. But that's been good for us.
So this is a gaming podcast. And I think like some people have the idea that like, oh, you have spending all this time with your kids, there must be more gaming time happening. Do you guys find that, in terms of your younger kids, are you engaging them more with all of those wonderful Hobbit games and all those wonderful other games that you may have like, oh, okay, I'm going to play this with them. Is that happening more or less, or where is that happening? I'll go with you, Jordan, first.
I would like to say it's happening more, but it's probably happening about the same. So of my 3 kids, 2 of my kids have special needs and some behavioral challenges. And my 3-year-old especially, he actually goes to a specialized preschool during the day. And being him at home is very difficult on his, the lack of scheduling, and his routine is all thrown off. But he makes it very difficult for us to play games because he is constantly needing that attention. So honestly, at this point, it's about the same as usual. My oldest daughter, May, she's actually done like some reviews and stuff with me, but I think we played a game of Ice Cool last week. She pulled out a game, honestly, this is perfect for this podcast. She was playing a game solo the other day. I found her playing, what was it? Oh, Magic Labyrinth, maybe? She was playing a game solo. Both, she was kind of playing double-handed. I was like, look at you. Like, I came downstairs and the other 2 were outside, and she's just at the table playing a game. I was like, all right, go for it. So I think she wants to. We just haven't had the time, especially since I've been working. It's not like I'm at home more, but I haven't been able to play more with her.
What about you, Anthony?
Yeah.
I think it's probably about the same as well. I've tried, and it's difficult because I mean, they're at different levels. So, and obviously they both want to play the same things together. So that's a normal everyday problem. But when they're both always there, nobody's at soccer practice or visiting a friend or whatever it might be, then, you know, you have to find things that can be inclusive to both kids at all times. So honestly, I often just, if they ask, we'll certainly do it. But I find myself being like, do I really have the energy to do this right now? Do I really want to play a game with the kids? Like, it doesn't feel like on a normal week, like on a Saturday, like, hey, let's get together, let's play a game. I got a couple new ones. We'll pull out one of the older, you know, we might play 1 or 2 games on the weekend. Now I'm just like, oh, okay, this will be a good thing to keep them busy. And then you feel guilty because you're like, I used to, you know, I like doing this, but I just don't have the energy for it right now.
I struggle because my 4-year-old is kind of playing games, kind of like a little bit of you know, like first Orchard, or you know, what else does she like? I just taught her Jenga the other day. She actually did the Jenga things, you know, like not just stack them, but like take the thing out and put it on top. But that was a proud moment for me. But do you guys like I don't like those games. I feel terrible. It's like I feel like I think you said before on another context, Jordan, like it feels like another chore, and like life feels like all of life feels more like a chore. So like gaming is starting to feel like a chore, or like gaming with them. So I don't like. I feel like I don't like. I have to like really force myself to play, and I feel kind of bad about that. I don't know.
I think the games get better when they get as they get older. I think once you hit 5, 6, 7 years old, the games get a lot more interesting. So
what's your go-to? Do you have a couple go-tos for that age?
We right now, May's 8, and she's just now starting to play like more adult games. So Barren Park is one of her favorites.
Okay. Right
now. But while she was still like into like kids games, we played a lot of Outfoxed. She loved Outfoxed. Ice Cool, she likes that one a lot. And there's another one. She has a junior rummy game that she really likes, that she can wrap her head around. So yeah, so they're just a lot of Hobbit games, Blue Orange games. I like the games that kind of level the playing ground, so the adults aren't really that much better than the kids, but you're still doing an activity that's interesting. Yeah.
How do you encounter gaming with your kids? Are there, Anthony, are there games that you would like? Because we've talked about children's games before, so I don't want to belabor the point too much. But like in terms of just now, like I mean, is there anything that you found useful kind of now? And something that you want to play, or is it just like, all right, here we go, let's game time for you?
My oldest, similarly, is getting into more robust games. Like we play Ticket to Ride New York. He can play the full version too, but often it goes a little long. The dexterity games are always great. They just, you know, because both kids can play them. I'm horrible at them, so the kids feel great about themselves. Like, it works out pretty well on that front. I've actually started teaching him like some more card games, and those are fun because he can then go kind of not play by himself, but like look at the cards and think about what he wants in his decks. Like he's had Pokemon cards forever, but like now we've actually taught him how to play it properly, and he's, you know, starting to build decks for himself, which is pretty cool. Nice. Even, you know, working on teaching him Keyforge of all games, but he's very interested in it. And while he can't build decks with it, he does like to look through all the decks I have. So I think stuff where he can go read or study it himself, or even he hasn't really soloed anything, but he'll pull stuff out and like look through the rules or look through the pieces. And that'll engage both of them sometimes. So I think that's fun stuff. No Thank You Evil is an RPG, not a board game, but that was a fantastic find that really engaged both kids, but especially him, because I got like the How to Make Your Own Adventure type book, and he's been really into that. So to the point where at some point in the near future, I'm probably going to be adventuring in whatever he's making up. So
that's awesome.
That should be fun.
That's great.
Yeah. So I think, just finding stuff that he can then take and do on his own, and let his, use his own imagination with, I think is what I try to think, like games that he'll be able to kind of run with.
Yeah. Do you guys feel like you guys have like this is as good as it gets in terms of routine and the level of energy that you're at to be able to kind of hit your work and your whatever? Like, do you guys feel like you've hit that and it's just like, okay, let's just putter along until the light is in the tunnel, or is there still kind of a level of kind of franticness in there, still figuring it out, so to speak? Because it's been like what, 4 weeks at this point.
Is that it?
I know, it feels so long, and yet then you think of how long it's gonna go, and you're like, oh my god.
I don't know. Because like we were mentioning earlier, our kids actually haven't started doing online school yet, and it's supposed to be starting next week, and we don't necessarily know what that's going to look like. So I think right now we're trying to keep things moving, and then we're going to have to start a whole new routine next week once that picks up. And then how long we have to do that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have you back on the podcast in about 2 weeks. We'll figure out.
Yeah. If we make it that long.
If we make it.
Not because of the disease, but because of the stress of having our kids at home.
Absolutely.
Not all doom and gloom.
They're these second and third order effects that just, I guess that's kind of what I wanted to do this kind of get the voice out there with this podcast about that. Like, there's the COVID, and I talked about the buckets before of people having problems, and thankfully all three of us have jobs. And I know Anthony and I are in the situation of like we depend a lot on clients, so it's like hustling and making them happy, and there's like that end of it, and then there's the having our kids around all the time. Like, thankfully I don't know what's going on in your lives, but like my personal life is not touched by the actual disease itself, but like the second and third order stuff that's happening to society while everything's going on is just like,
yeah,
definitely could use all the the mutual support, and we can get it for whatever reason. It makes me feel better to hear from a bunch of other people like yourselves, just like what you're doing, and yes, it's tough, but I see that you guys are doing it.
I don't know if you guys do a lot of like board game social media. I'm sure you guys do, but on like different Facebook groups, people constantly like post pictures of the games they're playing, and like these piles of games. They're like, I was able to get through these games. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm thinking like, oh, you probably don't have a job right now, so you got a lot of time. And I'm like, oh, I should be thankful I have a job, but it still feels like, oh, I wish I could play all those games right now too. So I've had to try to limit myself, even though I do like a lot of board game social media stuff just for my own channels. So I try to like limit how much I'm actually taking in and just trying to put some stuff out there when I can, and then not try to listen to everybody else with their huge piles of games they're able to play all the time.
Right. There's definitely an aspect of like its own bucket, so to speak, in terms of people having issue is like information flow. So like figuring out what the best, because you could just go on to online and news and you can get whatever information you want about anything you want, usually bad. and managing like, you have to figure out like how much is enough in terms of ingesting, and there's a balance, right? You want to be able to be informed, but you don't want to be overwhelmed by it. Like, you don't want CNN on all the time, and a lot of people are, struggling with that. And then what you're talking about, Jordan, like, like different social media people are responding differently. So like, yeah, I mean, if you're single or if you're like a couple and, your job is either, or you got like, furloughed, that you can get your job back and you got the unemployment coming in, and there's like different situations going on, and they're able to use that to play all these games. And I'm like you, man. I'm like, FOMO,
right?
Like, oh my god!
I'm like, I've gotten more games on my porch showing up on my house than I've played in total since this happened, and I'm just like, oh my gosh! It's like the best problem in the world to have too many board games to play, but like,
yeah. So, Anthony, any words of wisdom over there? Any,
No, I wish I could help. Yeah, I don't know. Like,
it's mutual support and love, my friend.
Yeah, I feel like this is the kind of podcast, like if I saw this in my feed, I would listen to it for tips, because we're surviving, and obviously don't have it nearly as bad as a lot of people. So like, I'm very grateful for, I have a job, I have steady clients, it's working well, everybody's healthy, My wife works in healthcare, so she definitely has a job for forever. So like, don't have to worry about like the economic end. The health end's fine. It's just eventually your brain just can't keep up with what you're trying to get done. So it's just slowing down, finding time to slow down, and that's a challenge.
Yeah, and like, like times like this is really important. I think it's hard to get these Zoom calls in, but I think, this is why I want this, primary reason I want to do this podcast is just to connect with, fellow gamers. And my wife, she's in a singing group and they get together on Zoom, which I do not want to touch Zoom with a 10-foot pole. I know what Zoom bombing is, so I don't want that in my life, but, just different platforms and everything. But, as limited as that is, I think that's, and just kind of like counting your blessings. And I think that, there's something like, I am trying to be better about like, this could be so much worse. We're complaining about our kids, we're complaining about whatever, but like, there's a lot, just like Anthony was saying, it's like, oh my God, there is a lot that we have going for us, and just kind of counting those explicitly on a daily basis has been helpful. As opposed to kind of like, focusing on the negatives. When you focus on the negative, when you get out what you put in. If you're just going to focus on how stressed you are, then it's just that just drains your battery. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying, and I think all of us are trying. Like you said before, you take them out to the park, and Jordan, you're trying to make some time to kind of play games and get routine going like that. So other than that, my friends, I'm thinking we're just going to end this in a big old like virtual hug. There he is. Jordan is stretching his arms out. Oh man, but thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for commiserating and hopping on and at least sharing your experiences. I think wisdom might be a strong word, but sharing your experiences, it's been pretty cool here for me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Thanks.